The time is 8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Dilini Gunawardena and read by Tilani Pires. The headlines. Sri Lanka is to join the US-led International Counter-Ransomware Initiative. The bill to authorize the National Transport Commission to regulate the transport fare of all vehicles will be submitted to the Parliament. The Galle Harbour is set for major revamp. Cabinet approves commercial and recreational development. Plans are afoot to build 2 floating solar power plants. The no-confidence motion against the Speaker is handed over. And on international news, Hamas says Gaza ceasefire talks are extended for another day in Cairo. Sports cricket, Pathum Nissanka is nominated for ICC Men's Player of the Month award for February. The government said Sri Lanka has received an invitation to join the inaugural International Counter-Ransomware Initiative, which the United States has started as a common platform in 2021 with a group of other countries for international coordination to eliminate ransomware. So far, 48 countries around the world and the European Union, as well as the international police, have joined the initiative. The Government Information Department said it has been recognized that it can benefit from joining the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative since Sri Lanka has recently faced various problems due to ransomware. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the joint proposal presented by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Technology and Minister of Justice, Prisons Affairs and Constitutional Reforms to join the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative and taking further action. The Minister, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena, says that the bill to authorize the National Transport Commission to regulate the transport fare of all vehicles will be submitted to the Parliament. The Minister expressed these views at the press conference held at the Department of Government Information today to announce the Cabinet decisions. This Act will be adopted once it is read in Parliament. Accordingly, the Minister further mentioned that the National Transport Commission has full authority to regulate the transport fare of buses, school vans, office vans and three-wheelers. The Cabinet of Ministers has given the green light for the ambitious development of the Galle Harbour, focusing on commercial and recreational activities. Minister Nimari Siripala de Silva championed the proposal, marking the significant milestone in the nation's infrastructural enhancement efforts. This initiative aims to attract a suitable investor through a public-private partnership, promising a comprehensive overhaul of the harbour's infrastructure. The proposal outlines a scope of work encompassing the construction of a water break, deep water passenger shaft, retention wall and oceanic wall. Also included are the excavation of channels and the creation of oceanic structures essential for land reclamation. The redevelopment of the Galle Harbour is anticipated to be a catalyst for economic growth and tourism in the region. By expanding the harbour's capacity for commercial operations and establishing recreational facilities, the project aims to attract international tourists and maritime businesses alike. The envisaged infrastructure enhancements will not only bolster Sri Lanka's position in global maritime trade, but also enrich the local cultural and recreational landscape, offering residents and visitors alike a vibrant, multifaceted waterfront experience. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Minister of Irrigation will allocate 0.99 hectares of water, surface area and 0.1 hectares of land area from the Chandrika Vavar and Kiri Ibban Vavar reservoirs for 2 floating solar power generation pilot projects. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved a proposal by the Minister of Irrigation to make the allocation for the 2 projects, which are the result of an agreement between Sri Lanka's Ministry of Power and Energy and the Korean government's Korea Institute for Advancement. A statement from the Government Information Department said the land and water surface areas will be granted to the Sri Lanka Solar Energy Authority on an annual lease basis for running the 2 solar pilot projects, each with a capacity of 1 megawatt. The implementation of the proposed projects will add about 3 gigawatt hours of annual electricity generation to the national grid. The no-confidence motion against Speaker Mahinda Yapa signed by 44 parliamentarians was handed over to the Deputy General Secretary of Parliament today. The no-confidence motion alleges that the Speaker had ignored the Supreme Court's recommendations pertaining to Sections 13, 17, 20, 33.6, 34.1, 35.1, 21, 22 and 33 of the Online Safety Bill. Speaker Abeyewardena is also accused of allowing the third reading of the online safety bill to be passed without a vote and disregarding the chief opposition whip's call for a division at the committee stage. Further, the opposition MPs pointed out that the Speaker had unconstitutionally and unlawfully used his decisive vote to affirm the appointment of IGP Deshabandhu Tennakoon. That ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
The Minister of Finance has announced that a team of IMF officials are set to visit the country on Thursday. The visit aims to address critical financial matters, particularly related to the third tranche of the IMF-supported program for Sri Lanka. The Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Mahinda Siriwardena, confirmed the upcoming visit. The IMF officials are scheduled to hold discussions with key stakeholders, including President Ranil Wickremesinghe and other high-ranking officials. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
And on Watchlight tonight, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the proposal to proclaim a day for assistance to the protection of victims of crime and witnesses. Accordingly, the 7th of March is proclaimed as a day to support and protect victims and witnesses of crime. The National Authority for the Protection of Victims of Crime and Witnesses has organized many programs to mark this event. A program to educate school students, teachers, government officials and elders is scheduled to be held at the Anuradhapura Mahavilichya Cultural Centre on March 6th and the 7th of March. That came to you in Watchlight. Coming up, World News. World News headlines first. Hamas says Gaza ceasefire talks are extended for another day in Cairo. France enshrines access to abortion in the constitution. India urges citizens working in Israel to relocate to safe areas. An official from Hamas said today that negotiators will remain in Cairo for another day at the request of mediators, keeping ceasefire talks going after 2 days with no breakthrough. The Cairo talks have been billed as a final hurdle to reach the first extended ceasefire in the war between Hamas and Israel, a 40-day truce during which Israeli hostages would be freed and aid pumped into Gaza ahead of Ramadan, which is due to begin at the start of next week. The French lawmakers approved a bill yesterday to enshrine abortion rights in France's constitution, making it the only country to explicitly guarantee a woman's right to voluntarily terminate a pregnancy. The historic move was proposed by President Emmanuel Macron as a way to prevent the kind of rollback of abortion rights seen in the United States in recent years. The measure was approved in a 780-72 vote in the Palace of Versailles. Abortion enjoys wide support in France across most of the political spectrum and has been legal since 1975. India has urged citizens working in Israel to relocate to safer areas after an Indian national was reportedly killed near the border with Lebanon. 2 Indian citizens were also seriously injured when an anti-tank missile hit a plantation in Mara Galit on Monday. The Israeli embassy in Delhi accused the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah of being behind the attack. The Indian embassy in Israel has since advised all its nationals to stay away from the border. In a post on X, the embassy added that it was in contact with the Israeli authorities to ensure the safety of all Indian nationals. Back to the world news headlines. Hamas says Gaza ceasefire talks are extended for another day in Cairo. France enshrines access to abortion in the constitution. India urges citizens working in Israel to relocate to safe areas. That ends World News.
Development News.
Sectoral Oversight Committee on Environment, Natural Resources and Sustainable Development, which met under the chairmanship of Member of Parliament Ajith Mana Perumal, recently took into discussion the concept of the Blue Flag Beach, which aims to prepare the nation's coast to attract tourists. The committee chair pointed out that tourists are more attracted to beaches that have received the Blue Flag Beach Quality Certificate. It was stated that it is because these beaches are safe and high in quality. The Marine Environment Authority pointed out that currently 12 main beaches in Sri Lanka have been identified to implement the Blue Flag Beach concept. The necessary steps are already being taken to bring Fort to a level of function. That came to you in Development News. Moving on with Sports News. Sports cricket, 3 top-order batters from India, Sri Lanka and New Zealand have been shortlisted for the ICC Men's Player of the Month award for February 2024. Pathum Nissanka has been nominated for the title. He is a top contender for the ICC Men's Player of the Month for February 2024 after he slammed the first ever double century in ODIs by a Sri Lankan. The 25-year-old blasted 210 off just 139 balls against Afghanistan in Pallekele and then went on to end the series with another terrific 100. Nissanka beat Sanat Jayasuriya's 24-year-old record for the highest score by a Sri Lankan in the ODIs. That ends Sports News.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Lanka Special Steels Limited recently announced the launch of its flagship international brands of wire, Lanka Special Steels Limited Poultry 300 and Lanka Special Steels Limited Premium 100. These high-quality products are designed for use in the poultry industry and for general fencing requirements, respectively. Lanka Special Steels is launching these products for the Indian market. That ends Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, officials said Sri Lanka has lost meetings incentive travel and exhibition travellers to competitors in East Asia and India due to minimum room rates, as higher standard rooms were available in other countries at lower prices. President of Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tourist Nishad Vijayatunga said the industry managed to retain a majority of bookings made before the minimum room rates were imposed by the state last year. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
Showers may occur at a few places in the southern province and in the Ratnapura district in the evening or night. Mainly dry weather will prevail in the other areas of the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western and Sabaragama provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts during the morning hours. That was the weather report. And now to end this news broadcast, the main points once again. Sri Lanka is to join US-led International Counter-Ransomware Initiative. The bill to authorize the National Transport Commission to regulate the transport fare of all vehicles will be submitted to the Parliament. The Galle Harbour is set for major revamp. Cabinet approves commercial and recreational development. Plans are afoot to build 2 floating solar power plants. The no-confidence motion against the Speaker is handed over. And on international news, Hamas says Gaza ceasefire talks are extended for another day in Cairo. And on sports news, cricket, Pathum Nissanka is nominated for the ICC Men's Player of the Month award for February. That ends this news broadcast. And now it's back to Chandima Virakon as always on a Tuesday night. Back to you, Chandima.